Read that graphic up there. Desmond, where is this?
Hey, Pat, we are kind of in the City Terrace, Monterey Park area right now. Here on Pomeroy Street it is. Believed to be two people inside a shooting suspect. Believed to be in this vehicle, this white SUV right here. It's been LAPD's Hollenbeck division that is in pursuit. So this started, we believe, actually it might have been 77th who division that is in pursuit. So this started, we believe, actually it might have been 77th who initiated this. May have started in the South LA area. So a known shooting suspect. They've just kind of been hanging around this neighborhood, though, doing a lot of circles. They've been on City Terrace Drive like a dozen times. You saw right as we came to air, they had stopped at that stoplight, and all the officers got out with their weapons drawn, and then as soon as they got out of the vehicle, the suspect took off again. So it's kind of been this on again, off again thing, stopping, going sort of thing. And it being a shooting suspect, obviously a lot of concern for there being a weapon in the vehicle as we're on Gage Avenue, another street that we've been on for quite a few times. I've been hearing them call this out on the radio. So LAPD overhead with their helicopter, units on the ground, a shooting suspect that they definitely want to try to take into custody, but haven't heard of any tactics as far as trying to stop this right now. Folsom Street here, just kind of hanging around the same area just east of downtown LA, not too far away from Cal State LA right now. Pat, Mike.
Okay, well, they're making quite a few turns in this residential neighborhood, it looks like right now, that could possibly give us some kind of indication that they may know where they're going or where they want to go. Do we know what time this call came in, Desmond, about this shooting?
Well, we got the call on this that they were when this was still back when this was a following, when LAPD was getting their ducks lined up in a row, maybe just 15 or so minutes ago, when they were getting ready to try to pull this vehicle over. They wanted to make sure they had the helicopter overhead for exactly this reason, in case the suspects decided that they weren't going to stop. Anytime that it's like a known felony suspect, they usually initiate a following first to try to get all of their resources in line and to be ready for a possible pursuit like we're in right now back onto Hazard Avenue. We're just circling the same neighborhood. These are all streets that I've been hearing the helicopter call out for quite some time, making me think that maybe they want to get out and run. But, they're also not making a very concerted effort as far as driving really fast to get away. So, I don't know, maybe it's just one of those things where they want to run out the clock. We see that happen with suspects quite often, where they just kind of circle in the same neighborhood and they don't even go very fast, and then like that. But no word from LAPD again about how they plan to stop this. A pit maneuver, not likely. Spike strips, possible, but unlikely. So kind of a complicated one when you're dealing with someone who's believed to be armed and dangerous.
Indeed, Desmond, as we look at these pictures, again, we know that this is a pursuit of a shooting suspect happening in the East Los Angeles area. And apparently it sounds like, according to our Desmond Shaw, that this has been going on for at least 15 minutes or so. I believe the suspect almost acted like he was going to get out at one point, and officers had their guns pointed at him. We are beginning KCAL News at 11 in just a moment with this breaking news. SkyCal is over a police pursuit of a shooting suspect, and we will be back in just minutes. And right as we continue on KCAL News, and we are on Channel 9 right now, and we'll be going to CBS LA Channel 2 in just a moment, but we've been watching this chase. I'm here with Rudabeh Shabazi and, of course, Mike Rogers on the desk and Desmond Shaw overhead and SkyCal. And you know something, Des? It looks like that this suspect has picked up speed in just the last couple of minutes that we've been talking.
Yeah, actually, now the speed's picking up a little bit and even crossing the 10 freeway. Looks like we're going to be getting on the freeway here onto the westbound side of the 10. So we're not too far getting on the freeway here onto the westbound side of the 10. So we're not too far away from County General USC Hospital. So now we'll see if we're going to head towards downtown Los Angeles or cut over towards the 5 freeway. So the first that we've seen on the 5 now at this point. Spotlight still overhead, LAPD as well. And we'll just be kind of curious to see if they want to get CHP involved now that it's on the freeway. I'm going to think that they want to stick with this. It sounds like a suspect that they want. And so, again, we'll see if they hail CHP for this one. But a pretty good possibility that they're just going to stick with this themselves. But headed towards downtown LA, we'll see what the next move is.
Got really a few seconds left before we restart the program. Desmond, do you know if there's one suspect or two in that vehicle? Or at least...
I believe we heard that there were two.
Okay.
Yeah, two is what we're...
I was a living zombie with dementia. My family sent me to a nursing home to die, but what happened next could only be described as a miracle.
All right, we're going to get back to Desmond.
And we begin with the breaking news, the LAPD pursuit of a shooting suspect.
And Desmond Shaw is live in SkyCal with more. Des, we had to break for a moment to restart the program here at 11 p.m. You said you believe there were two suspects, correct?
That's with the knowledge that we're working off of the initial reports here from LAPD. Always difficult to tell because 98% of the time we have the pursuit tent, as we call it, the very dark windows. Very, very popular with our pursuit suspects in Southern California, so making it kind of difficult to see. Maybe we'll see if maybe we get an opportunity to look in the front windshield at some point. But westbound on the 10 here at the moment, just widening out and seeing how LAPD is handling this. They're still back there. We haven't heard anything about a tracking mode or anything like that. So as we zoom back in here, the helicopter overhead, keeping tabs on this one, at least 3 or 4 vehicles in active pursuit, and we saw speeds kind of picking up just before they got on the freeway, but now kind of slowing back down again. It really just kind of seems like the suspect doesn't know what they want to do. They were circling that neighborhood for such a long time, and then all of a sudden kind of decided to change tactics right now as we are maybe exiting the freeway here. Yeah, getting off, it looks like right around Soto. Let's see where we end up here as we just get right back on the freeway, most likely. Yeah, it looks like we're going to be getting right back on. So kind of that, another very common pursuit thing, just get on the freeway, get off the freeway, and get back on the opposite direction and just kind of keep this going. And looks like that's what we're doing here now, eastbound 10. So headed back to where we began, and I wouldn't be surprised if we got off at City Terrace by the 710 and kind of circled around that same neighborhood again.
Let's bring in Mike Rogers now, who's also been following this since even before we got overhead of this pursuit. Mike, 2 things striking me. One, it's really fortunate that there isn't a lot of traffic right now on the freeways. And then also the suspect, when on surface streets, was going pretty slowly.
Yeah, it's kind of indicative of them not really understanding maybe where they're going or what their next, excuse me, what their next move is. Orlando on our assignment S2 was also able to get some information. The shooting happened about 10:30 tonight, 4th and Blanchard, where a victim was shot in the neck. That victim was conscious and alert at the time, which is unusual, so maybe potentially a graze wound or something like that. But I can tell you that LAPD responded to that location, immediately got a suspect description of this white Honda Pilot from witnesses, and it was the helicopter that actually picked it up and actually picked it up and started calling it out to the cars. So the helicopter had it before the ground units had it, but it was because of the good description the ground units got, the helicopter was able to get in the area and find it pretty quickly and start following it, try to get it to pull over. Obviously it didn't.
Okay, did we hear earlier about a following of some kind?
Yeah, so
because
the helicopter found it first, that was the following. So then they get more ground units in place. And before they actually tried to make a traffic stop, there was only 1 ground unit in the helicopter. They wanted some more ground units in there first. And that was when they were technically in the following. Then when they had enough ground units, helicopter was already overhead. They tried to light it up and pull it over, and it did not stop.
Okay, well, we see that, do they have the lights off as they're driving? Well, maybe it's just
or maybe the
it's so
dim
dark.
lights.
Yeah.
Yeah, now they're lighting them up again. And so obviously this ticks it up a bit because we assume that they're still armed.
Yeah.
If they're pursuing them because of a shooting.
Yeah, that's the working theory, and the fact that you did have a gunshot victim. So it's not even kind of ambiguous as to whether or not there was a shooting because you've got a guy with a gunshot wound to the neck as we exit City Terrace, Des?
Yep, I called it. Yeah, this is right back to where they were hanging out before. So as I suspected, so back into this neighborhood that they seem to enjoy so much. Just kind of hanging around here where City Terrace, Hazard Drive, Gage Street, they were just kind of circling around that neighborhood, and now we're right back there off of the 10th and City Terrace making a right-hand turn right here. But, these, if they were willing to do spike strips, I mean, these lower speeds are definitely providing an opportunity for that. It's always kind of tough to say when you're dealing with someone believed to be armed and dangerous. But we have seen it before where we'll get some officers out there taking advantage of a suspect in the same neighborhood, or keeping kind of these lower, well, I say lower speeds, now we're up to almost freeway speeds on the street. So variable speeds, but just hanging around these same neighborhoods. We haven't seen anything super crazy yet as far as blowing through red lights and not even slowing down at intersections or anything like that. But starting to pick up the speeds right now. City Terrace and Rambo's Drive here in the City Terrace area, pretty close to Cal State LA and the 710. And kind of had a little bit of trouble with that turn, I think there. Maybe didn't realize how big of a vehicle they're driving. A Honda Pilot, full-size SUV, definitely a rather large, dare I say, a bit ungainly of a vehicle here, as we are dealing with some neighborhoods right now and some trees, and let's see if we can reacquire the vehicle right here. But yeah, here they go. Just kind of squirrely streets around here, back onto Gage Avenue for like the 10th time tonight, and circling around with no plan.
Watch what nuts do to our body.
Cashews.
Cashews are not a nut. They're actually part of the poison ivy family.
No way.
Yeah, there's literature showing that they...
Certainly seems like they could get out and run, but LAPD is right behind them. They're not giving them too much space. If they did want to get out and run, they wouldn't have much of a head start.
Well, the good thing is, we've been talking, Desmond, they're driving at maybe higher speeds, but still at a speed where they can relatively keep their eye on them, and LAPD has been able to keep up behind them, just probably for those purposes. They get in these residential neighborhoods, and we know they can slow down and possibly try to make an exit or bail on foot, but and we've seen officers on the ground possibly lose them, and then it gets into another scenario where they're trying to find them in buildings or houses. Right?
Well, and right now we are actually pretty close to where the original shooting was. So
4th and Blanchard?
4th and Blanchard. We're also hearing Mott and Houston. They're all kind of right next to each other, the two intersections. We just actually passed Blanchard a second ago. So he's been kind of circling in this area. And, when we were early on in the pursuit, we could hear the airship tell the units at the shooting, just be advised, he's kind of making his way back towards you. So he's familiar with this area at least a little bit to continue to stay in it. Kind of interesting that he would stay so close to where the shooting happened.
And that's why he's being pursued.
Right. So it's kind of weird. But yeah, we're not far. We're in the Boyle Heights area, which is where the shooting happened. So we're not far from that at all. I don't know how close we are to it at the moment, but I do know that the airship has been warning those officers that were back at the shooting scene, just be advised he's kind of moving his way back towards you.
And, we talk a lot about, Desmond, we had another pursuit, I think, a week ago where the suspect was getting on the freeway, off the freeway, surface streets, and that causes confusion for the agencies, too, right, as far as their jurisdiction. Who takes over the pursuit? Is it CHP? Does it continue with LAPD? And they have to kind of make that call and dealing with this unpredictability.
Yeah, it kind of depends on the nature of the crime as well. I mean, there's nothing necessarily stopping LAPD from continuing, a pursuit on the freeway or keeping CHP from pursuing someone on surface streets. We've seen CHP do pit maneuvers on surface streets, but that kind of back and forth tends to happen with the more minor violations, like when we get these pursuits that start because of a traffic infraction or maybe, suspected DUI or a missing plate or something like that. But this being a shooting suspect makes me think that this is one that LAPD is probably just going to keep their jurisdiction on and keep with this unless it gets on the freeway for a really extended period of time and they just have an issue with too many officers getting out of their precinct or something like that. But we've definitely seen pursuits where when they're really serious, they just blew through that red light. One of the more dangerous maneuvers we've seen here in East LA is we're right next to the Gold Line tracks, I believe. So this seems like one where they're probably going to decide to stick with it, and you see how they are keeping the spotlight overhead, and the units are not too far back there. Whereas lately, especially with the more minor ones, LAPD maybe could cancel it altogether, or certainly give them a lot more space, or tell them to go into tracking mode. But this does not seem like one of those pursuits. This seems like one that they are going to be pretty determined to stick with, since it is a pretty violent incident that we're talking about here. So kind of some dark streets. We have been on a lot of residential streets here now, kind of on the edge of Boyle Heights and East LA, kind of a half commercial, half residential area, but getting pretty late. Haven't really seen any pedestrians or anything out here, so that's certainly good, at least that it's at this late hour. It's still kind of using the turn lane to get around somebody there, but dangerous nonetheless, but at least not as many people out here as opposed to have this happen a lot earlier in the evening.
You had mentioned that we have seen them actually use spike strips before, even when I just saw black and white there on that side street. We've seen them do this before, even though this presents a bigger danger, of course, because of the suspects possibly still having those weapons or a weapon with them. But because of the lower speeds, Desmond, and that they seem to be going back to the same area, doesn't that make it a bit more of a possibility that they could possibly try something like that?
It does, but now we're actually kind of starting to trend away from that area. They were hanging around that area, and they did get back off, like I predicted that they were going to get back off at City Terrace. But now we're kind of drifting to the west here, a little bit closer towards Boyle Heights, Dodger Stadium, downtown LA. Looked like he might have clipped a cone right there as we're over on First Street of the bridge, where there's quite a bit of construction going on. And I think we're going to be crossing the 101 freeway here momentarily, actually going right underneath it right there. So headed towards downtown Los Angeles. There's the train tracks again with this one. And we know what can happen with pursuits in downtown. So now this will definitely be a test of how serious LAPD does want to be with this, and if they want to, really get up on the bumper of that vehicle, because the more we continue to trend to the west, the more difficult this could become for their helicopter. And just a shout out to the TFO in that, because I recognize his voice. He's definitely one of the
Scam. After a car accident, some people think lawyers take everything and leave you with nothing.
most seasoned tactical flight officers that LAPD has right now. But even for him, it just gets very difficult when we get in with all of those really tall buildings right now. So, and here we go over the LA River, and we're just about in downtown Los Angeles.
Yeah, so many buildings and parking lots that, they have an opportunity to go into and actually, get lost most of the time. I mean, I don't want to use the word ditch, but we've seen that happen a number of times. And that's just because of, how it's the topography, if you will, of downtown Los Angeles. It just presents itself in that fashion for them to be able to hide from law enforcement, if you will.
Right there.
Yep, he did go through that red light.
And Mike, you were...
Yeah, and...
Oh, go ahead, Desmond.
Go ahead, Rudy Bay.
Oh, sorry about that. Mike, you were talking earlier about the actual crime that this person or people are wanted for. Someone shot in the neck, you said, and I'm just wondering how it changes the tactics of police when they're actually going after something. We talked about a more serious violent crime like this as opposed to a traffic infraction or no plates or something like that.
Right. What we have, exactly. What we have not seen so far, which we typically see, especially with the LAPD, is tracking mode, and tracking mode is not something that they really have done. We've seen the spotlight on the whole time. We've seen lights and sirens on from the patrol units that are following it, and so they'll do that, and then they're asking if they can even get even closer right now because of the tall buildings coming to downtown. So they're working on getting permission to do that. And just as I say this, actually looks like the night sun might be off now. And that's going to be very problematic here in downtown, as you see one of the tall buildings coming right into it. And because it's a shooting suspect, they're going to be less likely to want to do a pit maneuver. Those things make them nervous when they have to spin a car around and they potentially have a gun. Des, did we lose the night sun?
I don't see it here at the moment. We're just kind of looking at all the clouds around us as well. So we're just making sure that everything is okay with us up here as we make the turnoff of Beaudry, which parallels the 110. And we're just going to kind of have to get around the Wilshire Grand and their big antenna right there as the clouds are kind of right up against the clouds right now. But, yeah, southbound on Beaudry. But, despite the fact that we're going into downtown, and actually it looks like he wants to make a turn away from downtown, we're now on the west end. Not seeing like the super crazy driving, the super crazy speeds, indicative of someone who wants to, ditch the vehicle, making a turn now onto 3rd Street. Just give us a chance to get around this. You do see the spotlight there from LAPD, but I'm sure they're just making sure that there's enough space between us and them down there, and with the clouds, and keeping tabs on all of these buildings that are in our way right now. But yeah, we're now, as I zoom back in, I mean, we're actually right at about the speed limit here. Westbound on 3rd Street, and just kind of slowing. It really just seems like, I don't know, the suspect's kind of aimless. So we've thought maybe there was something going on headed towards downtown LA, but now we're headed away from downtown, westbound on 3rd into the Westlake district towards MacArthur Park and beyond.
And it's interesting, they haven't tried to get back on the freeway. I mean, they decided to go this direction, and as you say, moving away from downtown, but still, I'm looking at the speeds here, and, you know, relatively, besides maybe running a red light or two, we haven't seen the kind of erratic driving or just really stepping on the gas
and even
to try to outrun officers.
Yeah, and even that kind of slowing at the red light.
Right now?
Now, yeah. I mean, we've not seen any of these crazy high speeds, especially for, you know, the crime they're allegedly wanted for is a shooting. Usually we see suspects in those types of very serious crimes run a lot harder, certainly, than these guys are. I mean, now we're coming to, just a tight turn there? Yeah. So we're getting to these tight neighborhood streets, and now this is the first time we've been this far west, though. So the furthest we got west was, you know, basically right here. They've been really hanging out in the Boyle Heights area off the 710 and the 10. So getting over here onto surface streets in the Westlake district is certainly the furthest west we have gotten. Who knows if they're trying to make another move forward or exactly what they've got going on here. And actually, more than two, Doug?
Basically stopped.
Yeah, it does look like there are more than 2.
Yeah, I mean, definitely 2. I saw someone there as a Waymo getting out of the way. Kind of interesting to see a Waymo in the way of the pursuit.
In the pursuit.
So, yeah, we definitely saw someone in the passenger seat, and it looked like they were on a phone. And, yeah, I think I saw the rear passenger side window down as well, which could be indicative of you know, more than 2 in the vehicle, unless they just have those rear windows rolled down. So it couldn't quite get a good look at the rear there, but as we're on Lucas and Westlake, kind of a weird intersection right there. So exiting downtown, but I'm almost starting to wonder if the suspect, you know, I mean, I said running out the clock, but, you know, another thing that some of these guys like to do is get on social media and start live streaming and all this kind of thing, and just maybe start ranting and raving about things as they're being pursued. And
never sue the person who hit you after a car accident. I just got $100,000 for an accident I was in last month.
And driving at slow speeds, so I wouldn't be at all surprised if that's going on right now either, a lot of times with these slow speed pursuits. So just kind of gallivanting around, I guess I would say, at 25 miles an hour, and on some of these slow streets, just kind of aimless, going through some red lights. What's happening here? Now onto the sidewalk. What is now making a very bizarre turn up onto the sidewalk and onto Temple Street. Changed their mind there and headed now westbound on Temple. It just seems like the suspect has no idea what they want to do from 1 second to the next. Can't even decide what street they want to turn onto, and then have to make that awkward turn. Actually, Douglas Street now. So the Westlake area, we had crossed away from Temple, but definitely a unorthodox one as far as pursuits go.
Well, and unorthodox also in the fact that that they went to the area where this shooting took place. You know, you would think like that's the last place you'd want to go.
And hung out a lot in there too.
Yeah, not more than once.
Yeah.
And you know, I believe, Desmond, you mentioned them possibly talking on a phone when we were able to get a little closer to this vehicle. The police probably know who they are. Possibly know who they are. I mean, they receive phone calls from witnesses. They have a description.
They got a license plate.
I was going to say, we haven't said anything about this vehicle being stolen, so if they ran the plate, they possibly could be talking to this person themselves.
Yeah, very possible, you know, or they could be on the phone with loved ones or with their lawyer or something like that, as we see LAPD coming back into the shot here as we are back into downtown, actually, here eastbound on Temple, and then just making a weird turn, and it looks like we're going to be getting onto the freeway now, onto I think the southbound 101 here off of Temple, so right away from the 4 level. So back into the heart of downtown, and I mean, I don't know, the smart money would probably say he's going to go East 10 and get off at City Terrace and do another loop around there. We'll see here lots of options coming down to the 101, either down towards the 5 Santa Ana Freeway or the eastbound 10 San Bernardino, as we go through the heart of downtown LA on the southbound 101. And, you know, even on the freeway, actually,
picking up a little
I guess
bit.
we are getting kind of some highs. Yeah, about to 75 miles an hour. The speedometer gets a little bit off once they start to really kind of get away from us. But, yeah, speed's picking up a little bit here. We'll come up to that interchange shortly, and we'll see what they're next move's going to be.
You know, when they were downtown, part of me was wondering if they might be lost trying to get on the freeway or something. Maybe they're unfamiliar with the area, because it can be a little bit tricky there with the one-way streets and the way the freeway intersects downtown. It looked like they were just going in circles. It's hard to know what's going through their minds and what the conversation is in that car.
Uh-oh, that was almost a little collision, would you say? Looked like he had to maneuver
kind of a
pretty
close
quickly.
one there again. Just
to get away from that car.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a big, not very super maneuverable vehicle. When you kind of jerk the wheel like that, plus with a high center of gravity, I mean, bad things can tend to happen. And it kind of seems like, the suspect is even having trouble remembering that. So eastbound 10, away from the 101. And are we headed to City Terrace or beyond? And what is the plan here? Just making phone calls? Maybe they know the writing is on the wall and they're just going to enjoy the last few minutes of freedom and hopefully surrender. This is also a pretty big, gas guzzling vehicle. I don't think they get probably better than 20-ish miles to the gallon, so you can always hope that there's not much gas in the tank. But impossible to know at this point. 75 miles an hour, 80. That's about the fastest that we've seen so far here as we head back to where this kind of all began, going under Soto Street there. And what's the next move going to be? Is it City Terrace or something else?
I was going to say, if they were negotiating or talking with police, they're not going very well, considering that they got back on the freeway and are basically heading in the same direction, possibly. But right now, doesn't seem like a real plan, as they're just riding around in the same area. We're back and forth on freeways. Even going downtown, if they're going to try to make a move to dump the vehicle, that would probably be one of the best places to do that, considering they have all those tall buildings, and we've seen that time and time again.
Yeah, going up to 106 now, right?
Actually, yeah, this is definitely the fastest that we've seen. So first time here at triple-digit speeds, and maybe they're thinking something here that they can get some distance from the police, and let's just widen out to see if the pursuing units are still right back there, or if they've kind of backed off. And they actually kind of have backed off. This is the most distance that we've seen between the suspect and the ground units. The helicopter's still on them, obviously, with their spotlight overhead, but more aggressive driving, maybe trying to take advantage of the fact that those units aren't right behind, and maybe now they're thinking that they could use that to their advantage. So I think we're going to be exiting here at Ramona, I believe, or unless there's an exit here, there's also a collector lane, so they could do either one, and just like that. Whoa! Got crazy. What happened here? The suspect, it's like they just weren't paying attention to what was going on. He didn't even try to make that turn. Didn't even try to make that turn as they are now out. Here come two suspects doubling. We've got at least three that are out and running, and there's no units here. They gave them all of that space as it looks like they're going to be trying to get up a big embankment here. There's not a lot of lights. There's the spotlight. One person sticking around, maybe. Hopefully they have the sense to give up. But two people that have gotten up. Yeah, I believe these are the passengers that are getting up here. Not too far away, actually, from LA County Sheriff's Deputy's big facility here off of Ramona and the 710. So under a big canopy of trees. But what a bizarre ending to the vehicle chase here. How it was like they just didn't make any attempt to make that turn. If they were texting or just not paying attention, and definitely did a number to that poor Honda Pilot as someone in a scooter has decided to come and get involved in all of this. And still this person kind of sticking around.
No LAPD.
Yeah, still no LAPD here. And this is difficult because you've got the helicopter trying to keep track of three people, one person at the vehicle and two of them underneath these trees. This big dark parking lot right here, and whatever this is up on the hill. So this is very difficult. If they want this shooting suspect, all of a sudden, just a very inopportune time to not have any units directly behind.
And he's walking away now, Des.
We saw that one person who was, okay, yeah, and so he's walking away. And so, I mean, the best they could do is kind of keep with this person is just kind of casually strolling around. And that the casual tactic is not going to to work if this is
trying to blend in
their ploy because but the flight officer knows that, and he's going to be guiding people in. And But yeah, the other two are under that canopy of trees, and unfortunately, they have a lot of room to escape right now because there's only one helicopter and one spotlight, and only one flight officer in there who can keep tabs on all this when there's no ground units, and we're still not seeing anybody. Okay, now we've got CHP here as well. Okay, so kind of ironic that CHP is the responding agency in all this, and this person just doesn't even really seem to care. Got out and really seemed to care. He's just waving down a vehicle. I'll see if we can get to the other side of this tree right here. But
no. Is that the vehicle?
No.
Okay.
No, this is a minivan. But if this is a person's friend or did they just get inside that vehicle?
Hopefully it wasn't a carjacking.
No, they did not. No. Okay.
Oh, okay.
No. Yeah, I mean, it could have been an attempted carjacking or someone who's okay. Now we've got CHP here as well. Okay, so kind of ironic that CHP is the responding agency in all this, and this person just doesn't even really seem to care. And now, at least they're not really putting up a struggle. Just really interesting. And this was the driver. It was the passengers that got out and hid. So now it just kind of makes you wonder if it was the shooting suspect, one of the passengers that went up into that canopy of trees, and this person was just kind of the getaway driver. I mean, regardless, this person's going to be going to jail for failure to yield and, maybe several other charges. But just very weird. That person had so much time to get out here and just kind of go for an evening stroll, waiting for police to come and get them in custody here off of Corporate Center Drive and Ramona. So now that they have them, we are back over here to where we saw them underneath these trees right off of Ramona and the 710 where they kind of all meet. And that's also CHP right here that has come to join in on this investigation. But last we saw, they're going to come and clear this vehicle. But there's just so much time has elapsed from when the suspects went up on this hillside under these trees. I mean, it was dark even without the trees. And so it's going to be very tough to find those two.
Just when you were hoping that things, and when I say hoping, because they were so close behind for some time, we said, well, at least they're still on the ground right behind them. And it just didn't take any time at all, it seems like, for them to just lose officers and for them to just,
One of those officers just ran back to the car and took off.
He was pointing at something up in the hill, and then let's see if he goes around. I mean,
something.
And Des, I don't know if you heard it too, but listening to the radio, the flight officer up there, you could hear his frustration.
I bet.
And just saying, "Come on, guys, they're right off here at the Ramona exit. Make a right, like it's right here." And so you could just feel the frustration in his voice, knowing that there's 3 suspects taken off, and that one of them is likely responsible or allegedly responsible for a very serious shooting, and there's no units anywhere close to it. And you could feel the frustration in his voice.
Yeah.
Are these people's houses here? It almost looks like they're driving somewhere with purpose, like they know where someone is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, this is up on that hillside where we saw, and then if this looks like it's a restaurant maybe, or some type of, some type of, it said open for brunch, that sign right there. But yeah, so they're probably up on this property somewhere. Just so many places to hide. I mean, they had a good 3 or 4 minutes there under cover of darkness to get away. And it's just, man, they were on them so well for most of the pursuit, but then as soon as they stepped on the gas and got up to about 100 miles an hour is when we saw those units back off, and the helicopter had to kind of go it alone. And so now we have, CHP that has suddenly responded to this, and I'm still not seeing any LAPD on this, but, they're responding with vigor right here up on this hillside, running around, and they got their flashlights out trying to look for suspects when this wasn't even a pursuit that they got initiated with. So I'm wondering if, that flight officer got on with CHP to, knowing that maybe they were in the area and could get them to respond more quickly. But it's just very bizarre how this all happened, let alone how the suspect basically ended it themselves, just going, there's LAPD there, but off of the off-ramp, and it wasn't even that ramp right there. It was this one where they came and didn't even try to turn and just plowed right through the fence and onto the sidewalk, and just fortunate that they didn't take another vehicle out. They could have T-boned them and really, really hurt someone with that huge vehicle going like 30, 40 miles an hour. But kind of amazing too that they were all able to get out. And
I want to show you something that changes everything. I'm Paul Crusius, co-founder and CEO of Here.com.
And run, and we got the driver in custody, but the other two that took up off the hillside and trying to set up a containment, but it might just be too late.
It was almost like the driver got out and distracted as a distraction while the other two got away and just didn't even try to run or put up a fight or anything.
But he had that night sun on him. Like you were talking about the frustration for that pilot up there, Desmond, but he kept that night sun on that driver, which, I can't imagine what he was thinking about. Can you imagine? With that light beaming down on you, thinking you're getting away. He's like, nope, at least they have a light shining on you. And that was the entire time that he was walking. And let's just say it, he walked.
Yeah, I mean, he just kind of seemed to accept what was about to happen to him. Didn't really put up. Yeah, we'll see if we can get to the east side of these trees right now.
I think you got somebody under the tree right there.
And we do. I do see officers there with weapons drawn, so maybe they do have a lead on one of these suspects. I mean, it is a big property with a lot of trees, but if they decided to hunker down, it might have given the authorities a chance to get at least one or two of them as LAPD now coming in here.
Yeah, I think they do have a suspect, Des. When you come around, I think there is a suspect right there. I saw those CHP officers running up towards them right underneath that tree right behind that car. So we'll see if they've got anybody in custody. But it looked like for a second that they may have seen somebody under there.
Yeah, and we saw that officer down where the car actually crashed, that location, jump into the car. It was almost like she got a piece of information, jumped into the car, took off, and knew exactly where they were going.
And came up right up here to the top of the hill.
Okay, you're almost there, Des.
And look at that. Amazing. I mean, so the suspect apparently, at least one of them did not get as far as you might have expected. I mean, they went trudging up that hill and probably took quite a bit of energy and after getting in that crash, and who knows, maybe they could have suffered some injuries. So they do have one of two and that are still outstanding. So actually that's two out of three. And two of three. So one other that may still be underneath this canopy of trees right here, but despite having that long lead time here, CHP was able to come and try to kind of seal this area off and handing them over here to LAPD. So we'll see in the next few minutes if they're able to find the third. But just really unorthodox all the way around. Driving slow, then driving fast, and then taking themselves out, crashing, and the driver hanging around while the two suspects getting out, or the two passengers getting out and running. We have 2 of 3 in custody now, a cooperative effort between LAPD and CHP.
Okay, well, the other interesting point, too, is this, again, CHP actually ended this. Would I be correct in saying that, guys?
I mean, Chippies came in here fast and hot and really figured out to get on top of that hill and, saw this guy first and arrested the other guy first. So for an agency that was not involved in the pursuit, they certainly became involved in the arrests.
And they decided, right? Because even LAPD probably asked for the chopper pilot. Sounds like he may have had communication, and they accepted it.
Right. When they were on the freeway, there was conversation about CHP taking over the chase. Obviously, they never got to that point, but I'm guessing those units were getting in position to take it.
Okay, but they're talking to, that's that suspect they have. Okay. Well, Desmond, Mike, we are going to go to our Danny Roberti.
This is